Welcome to the Good Growing Podcast. I am Chris Enroth, horticulture educator with the University of Illinois Extension, coming at you from Macomb, Illinois, and we have got a great show for you today. It is a year in review. We are starting 2025, but we got to look back at 2024, see how things went. I mean, that's what all the other online personality people seem to be doing at this time of year. So why not follow suit? And you know, I'm not doing this by myself. I'm joined, as always, every single week by horticulture educator Ken Johnson in Jacksonville. Hey, Ken.
Hello, Chris. 2024 already seems like it was 2 or 3 years ago.
I know. It's been 2025 for at least 4 months. So as we record this on January 7th, it's been a while. Ooh. Man, now, how was your holiday break? I guess we start by that. I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks.
It was good. Didn't get a whole lot accomplished, but sometimes that's a good thing. It's good to be back.
It's good to be back. Have like a routine, know what day of the week it is.
Yes, there was a while there. I had no idea what day it was anymore.
Yes, what day is it? Are we eating lunch, breakfast, or dinner right now? I don't know what's happening. It turns out I had a beer for breakfast. I was confused, but so yeah, I actually, this is like my kind of first-ish day back, at least in the office. Same for you, Ken?
Yep, first day back in the office. First time I've had the alarm set in a couple weeks.
Yeah, not going to bed at midnight. Have to go to bed at a regular time and waking up early. Man, that retirement sure does sound nice right now. As we sit here mid-career, many more decades ahead of us. What we're going to be talking our year in review. We're going to talk about 2024. I guess listeners, viewers before the show just know that Ken and I had to do a lot of memory jogging before this. I'm quite worn out from all of that effort of trying to remember what in the heck we did. Seems like things happened so long ago. I don't know, Ken, you're like saying like, I can't believe this was a year ago. I thought this was 2 years ago or longer.
Yeah, it's funny how time works sometimes. Sometimes it seems like it's forever ago. Sometimes it seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And sometimes both at the same time. Exactly.
Yes. That's how it can sometimes feel like, with kids and family and some of those things in life. But so we used good old analytics to help us today. So we have our kind of like our top 3 podcasts that really seem to resound with everybody from 2024. And we broken them into 2 categories because they were different. One category for our YouTube audience, and then another category for our audio listening audience out there, because they were different sets of episodes out there for each group. So Ken, I guess, should we go with video number 3? What was the third favorite video of last year?
Okay. So this is of the stuff we put out last year, not every video we've done.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. We're
24 content.
We're right between the January and December of 2024.
So that was more than monarchs. So the other insects you can find on milkweed, that milkweed community.
And that was a garden bite that you did. And I guess maybe if you by chance just now listening to us for the first time, we do like full episodes where sometimes we'll interview someone. So we'll just take a topic and we'll just dive deep into it. But then sometimes, some weeks, I got to go sit on a beach somewhere or, go on a cruise, because I'm living it up in this world. And Ken's here and he's got to do this garden bite episode. And so that week it was just Ken, and he did this more than monarchs on milkweed. And that really resounded with folks. And I've always thought milkweed is this fascinating little ecosystem of a plant that has so much happening on it. If you can just take time to sit there and watch, a couple of milkweed plants, you'll see just all manner of things occurring on it.
Yeah, and monarchs aren't even the only specialists on milkweed. You've got the tussock moth, beetles, and true bugs and stuff that feed almost exclusively, if not exclusively, on milkweed. So we've kind of picked the monarch because it's, the migration is the poster child for milkweeds, but there's a lot of other stuff you can find on there too. And it's not bad to have them on there. They're not going to hurt the monarchs, and though there's plenty of food for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's plenty of food, a lot going on there. I think the main question a lot of people have with those other bugs, or the oleander aphids, or aphids in general, that seem to just sort of take over some of those older milkweed plants. And you get into what to do about that in your podcast there.
Yes. Spoiler, just wash them off.
Oh man, Ken, gotta make them click on the link, which will include links to these in the show notes below if you want to listen to them all. But yeah, Ken, you gotta get those hits up, those ad revenue, which we don't get, by the way, folks. We don't do that. So whatever ads they're showing you during this is nothing that we have any part of. We're just here to have fun. So the second most favorite video from last year was plants that we would not plant again. And this one kind of surprised me that people enjoyed this. It was me, you, and Emily, and we sort of just sat around and complained about plants for an hour, and people really liked it for some reason. But that's good, because it's pretty easy to sit around and just complain about the failures that we've had in our gardening world experience. So yeah, I thought it was a very fun episode to do. It was very easy for us to do and talk about. So yeah, the plants that we would not plant again. Check it out. I think it's worth the listen.
I think, and stuff like that, maybe it validates your feelings towards a plant. It makes it feel like you're not the only person that doesn't like a particular plant for whatever reason.
But sometimes things happen, like when Emily says she's not a fan of like mountain mint. Then the perennial plant of the year just so happens to be mountain mint. They must have heard that and like, you know what? No, we're going to make that the plant of the year for 2025. So sometimes it can validate it. Other times you can disagree. And I think some folks disagreed with us. We even kind of complained a little bit about milkweed too in that episode too. So you can have plants, you can like plants, and you can still complain and be annoyed by certain plants. It's all happens in this big old sphere of gardening.
Yes. It's not black and white. It's shades of gray.
Definitely is. Yes. More than 50 too. So yeah. Well, Ken, our number one video, what did people like watching the most?
So the most viewed was plant problems we are seeing in 2024. Did we do that? Was that July? August we did that. So just basically talking about, I guess, the more common plant problems we're seeing in the landscapes or hearing about, people coming into offices or contacting us with questions. So kind of getting everybody up to date on what's going on.
Yeah. We're just sort of speaking from, it was a little bit just like, as Ken mentioned, like our experience sort of off the cuff, like, this seems to be occurring more and more this year. I think for me, it was like oak wilt, just these phone calls about oaks declining. And we're just seeing more and more of stuff like that. But it's really hard to talk about some of those particular diseases. And I'm sure we covered this even in that episode where, for me to say this is oak wilt really would necessitate like a lab analysis saying you have oak wilt. Now, there are some symptoms, especially when we're dealing with the red oak group, like, hey, if this oak tree dies within a month or two of first noticing symptoms, odds are pretty good it's like a oak wilt disease that's infected it. But without a lab diagnosis to confirm it, it's hard. But
yeah, for me, magnolia scale, I think I got more questions last year about that than I had the 10 years previous. So it just seemed to explode. In Jacksonville, and hearing from other people too, seemed to be quite prevalent last year.
Yeah, that blew up. It's interesting, these pest population cycles, how they occur, with scale being the one last year. There was bagworms. Was it 2 years, maybe 3 years ago? I just everywhere, at least around the Macomb area, all these things were covered in bagworms. There are bagworms on plants you would have never seen them before. I think even it was 2 years ago, me and you, were at the Iowa State Fair, and we're finding like bagworms. They had built their little cocoons along this fence area. There's a plant that they're using as the source material, but there's like bagworms everywhere. And you just had a great old time pulling those bags off, pulling out the little caterpillars and taking pictures of them.
I got interesting hobbies.
Yes. I invite Ken to a dinner party, preferably one outside where there's lots of insects. It'll be a lot of fun.
Then everybody will leave and
lose their appetite. Oh man. Well, so those are our top 3 videos, but what about our audio, for our audio listening audience? Is it similar, but a shift in things? So, Ken, what was our number 3, our third favorite audio only podcast?
This was the native grasses in the Prairie and Your Yard. So we had Aaron Garrett on for this. So just talking about some of the different prairie grasses that do well in home landscapes. So maybe not your big blue stem and stuff like that, but smaller stuff like little blue stem and drop seed and stuff like that. So ways we can incorporate those into our landscapes.
Mm-hmm. And that was a fun one. I enjoyed speaking with Aaron about that. And we had a really good conversation also, I think, about buffalo grass, and kind of how using that in the Illinois landscape, how it's really more of a Western species, but you're seeing it pop up more and more in kind of this kind of more trendy type applications for it. People wanting to be sustainable, people wanting to use native plants, but still needing to have maybe a turf-like surface within their yard. So people exploring buffalo grass, which I guess, and we described in that podcast, and at least in my experience, it doesn't do terrible, but it doesn't do great here in Illinois. It's sort of just in the middle. Kind of gets overtaken by cool season grasses, and then sort of it's still there, but it's just growing within the fabric of the lawn.
Grow nimble well. It grows everywhere.
Yeah, I'm growing that not on purpose, but
me too. That's most of my yard now.
I'm just embracing it. It doesn't look too bad, when it's green, but right now it's not green. Definitely not green as a warm season plant. But yeah, Nimblewill. Nimblewill is probably one of the top weedy grass questions I get these days is about Nimblewill. There's another one though. Actually, I did spy this question in my inbox. I haven't gotten to it yet over the break. Somebody took a picture of their lawn. They want to know what's wrong with it. So 1, I saw Nimblewill in there. 2 is tall fescue, the pasture type, not the turf type tall fescue. So they're like, what's wrong with my lawn? I'm like, well, where do we start? So you just reminded me, Ken, of my question I need to get to.
Some grazing animals.
That's right. Well, our audio listening audience also really enjoyed our sit-down interview with Dr. Andy Davis with University of Georgia, who discussed some of that Monarch Butterfly Science. So some of the research that he has done to show that the monarch butterfly is actually doing pretty good, at least during the growing season or the summer months in kind of the U.S. and Canada. Their population levels can seemingly rebound from what happens during that fall and winter migration down to Mexico. So, I learned a lot about that podcast, and I think the main takeaway from that is just ask questions. When you read something and it really seems to line up with your way of thinking, like, oh yeah, I want more native plants, because I want to save the monarch, and this article says the monarch is endangered. Read, try to find other viewpoints, try to find that research-based data. We're seeing, a lot of organizations kind of like easing off on some of that save the monarch tone. Even Xerxes is kind of like, ooh, maybe we need to be careful on rearing monarchs indoors because we might be introducing genetics that shouldn't be in the gene pool. Because as Andy said in that episode, caterpillars, which monarchs are part of that group, are food for other animals. And so the survival of the fittest. It is a struggle for them for a reason to become an adult.
Yeah, and we may have to have them back on depending on the endangered species listing, wanting them to be listed as threatened, and get some views on that. So what is the Fish and Wildlife? So they've proposed listing them as threatened. So it's going through the public comment period right now. So it's not official, but listing them as threatened. When was this? This was in December
13th, I believe. That's when they made the announcement.
And then listing parts of California as critical habitat. Because what was the stat they gave? So today, eastern migratory population is estimated to have declined by approximately 80%. The western migratory population has declined by more than 95% since the 1980s, putting the western population at a greater than 99% chance of extinction by 2080. For the eastern population, 56 to 74% chance of being extinct by 2080, according to their status assessment. So that's what's kind of prompting that threatened listing. Endangered would be a whole another can of worms where it's illegal to kill them or touch them and all that stuff. So threatened is a little less. It's got a little more wiggle room on how they kind of regulate that. Yeah. That's in comment. That's not official yet.
Mm-hmm. And I was speaking with a U.S. Fish and Wildlife person, and they were at this event to specifically address questions that people might have about this. And they really shed quite a bit of light on this, said this is more complicated than what you would typically find with most endangered species declarations, because with most endangered species, you have a plant, you have an animal, you have a fungus, you have something, and they're in this one localized area, and you are trying to protect that particular spot. But monarch butterflies, they're everywhere. They're across all of North America. And, they just described it as very complicated. And so I think one of the steps that they're taking this year is they're trying to gather more data with that comment period. I think there's some citizen science opportunities that might come along with this as they try to collect additional data across North America. So we probably need an episode to maybe figure out what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife are planning to do for this coming year. Because there's a lot to know. And as Dr. Davis said, just check and verify sources. And he was even said, check my data. And he said, if you watch that episode, we had a few people reach out to us and ask, questions, and just reach out to Dr. Davis. He will send you all of his data and sources. So I encourage that.
Yes. All right. And then our top audio episode from last year was growing perennial vegetables, asparagus, rhubarb, and more. So I'll say for our garden, we did plant asparagus last year. So didn't have any to harvest this year, maybe a little bit next year, but in 2 years or year after next. No, next year. Yeah, next year. It's 2025 now. So last year we didn't harvest any. This year we'll harvest a little bit maybe, and then next year is when we'll kind of get rocking and rolling with asparagus.
Well, that's exciting. Asparagus is a fun spring vegetable, good perennial. Do you know what type that you put in the ground?
It was purple, one of the purple ones.
Okay, yeah. Say no more. Purple asparagus. I do recall having a wonderful time at a farmer's place. So he grazed his sheep in this field where he also grew asparagus, and he rotated the sheep off while the asparagus spears came up, but he would rotate sheep back in. It was a very interesting system, and he had purple asparagus. And this is many years ago. And he said, you know what? This is the best asparagus you'll ever taste. Pick a piece, just pick a spear and eat it. And I'm like, you can eat asparagus without steaming it or baking it or boiling it? He's like, yeah, you can eat it raw. So I ate it. It was delicious. I love asparagus raw now. So it's one of my favorite things, is while you're out there working, just pick an asparagus spear. Now I want to come over to your house, Ken, and have some purple asparagus this year.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it's ready.
Okay. I'll be there. I'll weed your garden. I'll water, whatever you need me to do. I mean, so that's what people really enjoyed listening and watching, but what episodes did we enjoy making? I will say they were all fun. I did especially like complaining about plants. Again, restating that. But probably one thing that I really liked, my favorite episode was the old timey garden remedy episode that we did, particularly because I had a tab open on my internet browser. And if you see my internet browser, there's currently like 20 tabs. Ken's is worse. Believe me, folks.
That's amateur.
I know. Ken's is way worse. He's got, yeah. They're like stacked up for him. I don't know how you do it, but I had this tab open for this old article from Landscape Architecture magazine about using dynamite in the landscape. And I was just like, oh, I can't wait to throw this in the podcast somewhere. And I finally got the opportunity to do that in that episode. And then I closed the tab about a week later. I waited a week because it's been there for so long, so I had to keep it up for a little bit. But I finally got to close that tab and share that idea of using dynamite in the landscape, which was more common than one would think before there was modern machinery.
Yes, I did enjoy the dynamite. Even the experiments I did with varying amounts and what it'll do, and a small part of me wants to replicate that to see if it's true or not.
I think we need to have some kind of police person with us when we do that. Like when they did that in like Mythbusters, they always had someone from the police department that had to show up to when they're working with explosives. So I guess I'll try to ask some cop friends. I don't know. I don't really know any, but I can make cop friends. It's always good to have one. Let's see if we can get someone to help us with some dynamite.
Let's do it. Get the nitrogen from it too.
There you go. Yeah. That was a great side benefit of dynamite is all that nitrogen, it just into the ground.
All right. So I think my favorite was cicadas, the cooking and stuff. So it's been on the bucket list for a while and got to check that one off. So didn't lose any browser tabs over it, but I did get to cross off a bucket
browser
list.
Tabs.
This is true. Got to use some cookbooks I've accumulated over the years finally and stuff. So it was good. Yeah.
I think you started talking about 2024 cicadas in like 2020, maybe even 2019. There was an episode we had about them, many years ago, and a handful, but and you showed me those cookbooks. And so, yeah, I'm glad we finally put those cookbooks to use. That was a great episode where we had Kristen Bogdanis come down. She's our nutrition wellness educator. She had put together some like good recipes, some good that incorporated using cicadas or insects. And, she had stated from the get-go, like, hey, people use insects or eat insects all over the planet. It might be weird for us here in the US, but it's not weird for a lot of other people in other countries around the world. I don't want this to be a fear factor thing. I want this to be like real life, because this is real life for a lot of people. So that was a good episode. And we had Dr. Casey Athey come in too and talk about insects. It was a lot of fun. So if folks want to see us preparing, making, creating, and then eating different cicada themed dishes, check it out.
Still have a gallon bag in my freezer of cicadas.
It's just, I'm telling you, Ken, State Fair, Illinois, we will make a killing. It'll be the snack of the year. Well, I would say probably a very memorable part of 2024 is our effort we did with Emily as well, our grow along. And the grow along really got, at least I'll speak from my behalf, really got me motivated to do a little bit better gardening at my own house. I had a spot set aside for a while. It was in lawn, turf grass, and I'm like, this would be a good spot for a vegetable garden. And we killed it all off last year. This is where we planted our grow along. And so, yeah, if you're just becoming aware of what the grow along is, we had a little effort where if you signed up, we sent you seeds. We grew the same seeds at our own house, different plants, crops, cucumbers, okra. Let's see, we had acorn squash and oh man, what else we have? We had the black knight runner bean, Mizuna,
black eyed pea, southern pea.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we grew these right along, and we gathered data of people's impressions of them, how it grew in their own yard and garden. And so the grow along, I really gardened last year. Like I tried to do as good a job as I could. And so and we had a lot of harvest. Like we ate from our garden quite a bit last year, whether it was from the grow along, or some of the other things that we grew. Grow along really got me motivated, and it was really fun to see what other people did in their own yard and their other creative ways of how they grew their particular crops.
Yes. We mentioned lemon cucumber. That's another one we grew.
No, we didn't. I still have, there's lemon cucumber. I see it all over the place. It's in the woods. It's everywhere, wherever my kids threw it. And we'll see if it grows next year.
Yeah, that one was fun. Yeah, some different things, maybe out of the ordinary for a lot of people. And we are planning on doing it this year. So
that's right.
We need to meet.
Stay tuned
and get that figured out.
Yeah. We have a list that we need to whittle down to be more manageable, probably. But it will include vegetables and flowers in 2025.
What's another one? Poinsettia trial was fun, going in and seeing all of that. So that was the last one we did in December.
Yeah.
So going to Columbia, Illinois, to the NG Heimos greenhouse, their poinsettia trial. So 200 some varieties of poinsettias. I think I saw a video. They said they had 17,000 plants there. Every color you could imagine for poinsettias, and then some you probably never would have thought of. From your traditional reds to pinks to marbled, yellow, white, green, orange, peach, you name it. It was there.
It was incredible. There, you will never see so many poinsettias in your life. And by the end of it, you're like, man, I think I could go without a poinsettia for a little bit. But then Ken, it was like stuck in our brains, these poinsettias. You would text me like, check this out. You send me that text message from your dentist's office. And he's like, it's a marbled one. Like, yes. And so you're just like, now we're just like spotting them all over the place. These like different types of poinsettias out there. Everyone's like, you got red ones. No, there's way more than that.
And even cut flowers. Using them for cut flowers and stuff. So it's not just for your tabletop or whatever decorations. It's cut flowers and other things too.
Yep. They're talking about breeding them for using in other seasons, from the fall poinsettia, the spring poinsettia. The seems like poinsettia is going to have a revolution here. It's not going to just be in December anymore. So as we described in that show, it's one of the top selling annual plants in the world, and you only sell it practically 1 month out of the year. Mid-November to mid-December, maybe up to Christmas, but that's the window, and it makes billions of dollars every year. So they want to extend that window, of course. Oh, well, so there was also the book episode, and I guess I liked that one because we were able to include a lot of our fellow educators with that one, which was inspired by a listener. So if you want to see a particular episode in 2025, feel free to send that suggestion to us. But it got us really to get involved with some of our other educators, and we interviewed them on the spot. Some of them literally were not prepared for us to walk up and Ken put a microphone in their face and say, what's your favorite gardening book? But that was a fun one. I really enjoyed that one. We talked for like an hour and a half, more than that. I think it was a long episode. So apparently we like books.
Yes. I've got a new all kinds of new books to read now. I'm almost done reading another book, so we'll have to talk about that again next or this December.
Yep,
we'll do part 2.
Might just be our annual book podcast where we go through some of the books that we read in that year. That would be a fun one. I'm barely moving through my mosquito book. It's very dense. It's very, very dense. So I gotta go backwards a few pages before I go forward one page. And boy, it's really interesting. I keep using that information that I'm learning about mosquitoes and malaria throughout my other work that I'm doing, because that topic has touched so much in the history of the human species. So it's very fascinating. I highly recommend it, even though I'm only on page like 80 out of 400 some. So I'll get there.
You got till December.
I know. Oh, I don't know. I might need longer.
I think the last one we had on our list, right? Yes, was the toothache plant. So I think we knew what we were getting into. Emily,
yes,
maybe not so much.
She did not. She did not know. No, I have tried toothache plant many times, but Ken, you supplied us with these. These were grown in your own yard, correct?
Yes, I still have the plant. It's probably not going to make it much longer, but we tried to overwinter it, but I don't think it's going to make it.
Did you start that from seed?
Yes.
Okay. I remember those seeds being teeny tiny, like they're like the size of a flea. Like they're tiny.
Not terribly large.
Were they difficult? Did you just like pour them into like a tray and just say grow, or did you even try to separate them a little?
Trying to think what we did.
Go back in that way back machine of your mind.
I would say we just kind of sprinkled some, and I don't think we had terribly good germination. But obviously we had enough to, we had a couple pots with it in there. So,
well, it is a fun episode. If you want to see us eat toothache plant, just the flower heads, which give you this tingling, numbing sensation. It wasn't as bad. I've probably had one worse from when I tried it from the WIU research fields they had. They just had it growing for fun. The students planted. That one almost hurt. You're tingled so hard, and then you're like literally you just started drooling all over yourself. But yeah, if you want to see us have a good time, and then Emily realize what was in store for her. It was a good fun episode.
We did warn her ahead of time, but being warned and experiencing it are two different things.
Yeah. It makes me, I want to grow the plant. I want to grow it. I want to do it again. It's just kind of fun. Little experience.
If you're going to grow it, make sure you water it well. That was my mistake. To not water it nearly as well as it should have been.
Well, it worked. So whatever you did, it was still worked. Well, Ken, I guess as we bring everything to a close, we're going to close the book on 2024, even as we boldly trudge into 2025. Do you got any lessons that you learned from the garden last year? How did things go? What was your experience that you could share and maybe impart on your future self going into 2025?
If you grow a toothache plant, water it well.
Okay, good lesson. Writing that one down.
Let's see here. For a vegetable garden, we got a soil blocker. So we're trying a soil blocking this year, or I guess last year now. And we did artichoke and cardoon, which are similar. There's artichokes, you're getting the flowers, cardoons, you're harvesting them for that midrib. You blanch them and stuff first. I intended to grow the cardoon just as an ornamental. But with the soil block, you can't really put the label into it. So, we just bottom water and those labels got mixed up. So the artichoke that was supposed to go in the garden, which is much smaller than the cardoon, ended up in the front yard, and the cardoon ended up in the vegetable garden. And got rather large, ate a good chunk of the garden. So to figure out a way to label that stuff better. But it was still a fun plant. We had nice artichoke flowers in the front yard. Those didn't really develop until shortly before frost thaw. I think, again, water. With last summer being so dry at times, didn't do the best job of keeping up with watering. But in the front yard, we're kind of a survival of the fittest. We don't water the flower beds and stuff out there as much as we do a vegetable garden.
So I will be over also as I sample your asparagus, setting up an automatic irrigation system.
See, we gotta get the hose off the spigot. It fused down there, and I couldn't get it off.
We have an episode about that, Ken. I think I wrote an article about that.
I did, and I referenced it, and then it got really cold, and I didn't get it off. I even had a pipe wrench trying to get it off in the hole.
Oh, don't do that.
Like, we're not going to do this anymore. This is going to stay till spring, and I'll just cut it off.
Yep. I have used a pipe wrench, and instead of turning the hose, it turned the copper pipe on the interior wall and split that open. That was a mess. So just don't do that. Just don't put too much torque on it.
And when the spigot started moving, I'm like, all right, we're done.
Yeah.
Let's go downstairs and make sure the basement's not flooded. So it's still sitting out there buried under snow now, but come spring,
there's always
come off.
Always next year, Ken. And right now it is next year. So, well, I would say lessons learned from my garden in 2024 are you can never come up with enough recipes for cucumbers. Those lemon cukes were prolific, and we did everything you could think of with cucumbers. And then finally I just said, kids, these things are about baseball size. Go to town. They would throw them in the air and hit them with the bat. I had a good time with a couple of them. We ran out and take them to a food pantry, find neighbors with open windows you can throw them in. And so share it, hit them with a baseball bat, do what you can. Lemon cucumber, quite prolific. You only need to grow one.
So there's a National Leave Zucchini at Your Neighbor's Day. Maybe we need to make one for cucumbers too.
I think so. At least lemon cucumber. It deserves its own holiday. And it was a dry summer. We'll see how things stack up. We need to have Trent Ford on here sometime in 2025 to give us the lowdown of what to expect for this coming growing season once they get that data from, was it NOAA? I think he uses the NOAA National Weather Service data. Kind of gives a little bit of climate prediction of the growing season. Oh, let's see. Other than that, watch out for that herbicide drift. I would say my garden in 2024 got hit really hard by drifting herbicide. Our neighbor was growing soybeans this year. Hopefully next year it'll be corn, so it won't be as bad. But we lost our pumpkins, all of our beans and everything, our potatoes and tomatoes and peppers. They all got hit pretty hard. And even my silphiums, a lot of my ornamental plants also got hit pretty hard by that drifting herbicide. So something I'm going to be more mindful of this coming year because I just don't want to deal with it again. So have a conversation with the neighbor and make sure we can avoid that if possible.
Yeah, I don't think it was this year. Last year, we had issues with cotton. I think somebody in the neighborhood was spraying some broadleaf herbicide on a very hot day, and our cotton just got torn up.
Yeah. So it's got to keep an eye on that kind of stuff. So maybe we'll have our own episode about that later. So there's so many things to talk about in 2025. So I'm excited to get this year going. We got a whole slate of things that we've already kind of brainstormed and want to have coming up. So looking forward to it.
Yes. Should be fun.
Yes, should be, will be. Yes, you gotta be very demanding in your fun. That's how it goes. That's how fun works. But the Good Growing Podcast is a production of University of Illinois Extension, edited this week by me, Chris Inroth. Hey, Ken, thanks for setting the alarm this morning, coming in to work. I had to not wear sweatpants. I had to put on real pants today. So it was a big shift for me as well. So, but thank you for being here with me today to talk about and reminisce.
Yes. Thank you for making it into the office today. And let's do this again next week.
Oh, we shall do this again next week. We're going to have Emily Swihart back, and we are going to be discussing dogwood. I love dogwood. It's one of the first small trees, woody plants I ever learned. So I'm excited to talk about dogwood and all of its different species and forms out there. Well, listeners, thank you for doing what you do best, and that is listening. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, watching. And as always, keep on growing. I need to read a book about dogwoods.
Me too.
This podcast keeps us young, fresh.
All this white hair.
That's right. No, the camera doesn't pick it up as well, so that's okay.